In this lesson, you're going to learn how to solve a system of equations using the third method, known as the elimination method. You should have already learned how to solve a system of equations using the graphing method and the substitution method. The elimination method uses the idea of combining opposite integers to eliminate or cancel out one of the variables so that we can solve for the other. What are opposite integers? A positive and negative number that, when added, will equal 0. So here are some examples. 2 and negative 2. 5 and negative 5. X and negative x. Okay. We use the elimination method when both equations are in standard form, so the x's and the y's are together on the same side of the equation for both, and one of the variables has opposite coefficients. We can add the equations together to eliminate a variable. So how do we use the elimination method? Let's go through the steps with our first example. So step 1 is to check if the two equations have opposite integers for one of the variables. So I look at my two equations. 2x and x do not have opposite numbers in front, but 2y and negative 2y have opposite coefficients. So the elimination method says that I can add the entire second equation to the first equation. So when I do this, I'm essentially combining like terms. 2x plus x makes 3x. 2y plus negative 2y makes 0 y's, and these just go away. The equal sign gets brought down. 48 plus 12 makes 60. Now, all you have to do is solve the one-step equation to figure out what one of the variables is at the point of intersection. So to do that, I need to get x alone, so I divide both sides by 3. At the solution point, x will equal 20. Now that I've got one of my variables, I can take that 20 and put it in for x in either one of the original two equations. I'm going to put it in the first equation, or in the second equation. So I'm going to use x minus 2y equals 12. I know that x equals 20 where the two lines intersect. So I'm going to replace the x with the number 20. And I bring everything else down. Now I've got a two-step equation to solve. 20 minus 2y equals 12. I'm trying to get y alone, so I need to get rid of the 20. So I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides. And here you've got to be careful. The number in front of y is negative 2. So negative 2y equals 12 minus 20. And 12 minus 20 is negative 8. I divide both sides by -2, and y equals +4. So I've got my x and I've got my y. My final answer is written as an ordered pair, 20, 4. Let's try it again. In example number 2, I'm going to look for opposite numbers in front of one of the letters. So I start with x. I've got a positive x and a negative x. Positive x has a 1 in front of it, and negative x also has a 1. 1 and -1 are opposite integers, so I can add my two equations together. 1x plus -1x is going to get rid of your x's. -2y plus 3y. We're going to add the coefficients together. -2 plus 3 is going to give me +1y. And 8 plus -5 is going to give me +3. I divide both sides by 1, and y equals 3. I've already got half of my answer. Now I can take this 3 and put it back into either one of my equations. Okay, I'm going to take 3 and put it back into the first equation, which was x minus 2y equals 8. So I'm going to replace the letter y with the number 3. -2 times 3 is -6. So I have x minus 6 equals 8. I've got a one step to solve. So I add 6 to both sides. And I'm left with x equals 14. I now have my x and my y. So my final answer is 14, 3. And we're done. In example number 3, I look at the numbers in front of x. I've got -3 and +4. Those are not opposites, so I check my y's. I've got a +4y and a -4y. These are opposites, so I can add my two equations together. -3x plus 4x leaves me with 1x. 4y plus -4y is going to have y's that cancel out. And -2 plus -6 is going to give me -8. Divide both sides by 1, and x equals -8. So I've got half of my solution. I can now take that -8 and put it back into the first or the second equation. I'm going to put it back into the second equation. First equation. So I have -3x plus 4y equals -2. X is -8, so I'm going to replace the x with -8. -3 times -8 is 24. Now I've got my two-step. So I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. 4y is going to equal negative 26. And I'm going to divide both sides by 4. And y is going to equal negative 6.5. So these two equations will intersect at negative 8, negative 6.5. And that is your final solution. Now it's your turn. You're going to solve each of the 4 systems of equations using the elimination method. Follow the steps at the beginning of your notes. When you are finished, check your answers with me.